Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Home and Away, a podcast devoted to all things in and around the world of sporting Kansas City soccer. I am Drew Vanderplug, joined once again, as always, by my good friend Cody Welton. This week on the podcast, never was the gap in quality between Sporting Kansas City and top teams in the league quite so succinctly on display as it was in Seattle on Sunday night, as they shipped 5 goals, losing 5-2 to a pretty heavily rotated Seattle Sounders side. And struggling generally to put much of an imprint on the game. Kerry Zavagnin rolled back to 4-4-2. He did make some adjustments that made some of us think that perhaps he listens to the Home and Away podcast because the changes were along the lines of things we suggested, but they still were not able to make a significant impact on what was just a significantly noteworthy gap in both intensity, ability to read space, maintain space, and close space, and just a general gap in quality between the teams. And it was very clear to see throughout this match. They did, as they have done in several games against higher quality opponents, did get a goal back, got a second goal back, gave fans sort of some level of optimism that perhaps they could play themselves into this game before eventually shipping several more goals and losing both on the expected goals number and the real goal chart fairly significantly. It has a lot of us considering how many of these 17 players that are out of contract or on an option year at the end of the season should return. We had a conversation last week where I suggested as many as eight of them might return. After a game like that, perhaps we're thinking that maybe none of them should return. It really is like it gives, and we don't want to be prisoners of the moment, but certainly a performance like that does have all of us considering, what the level of this team is and how drastic the rebuild in the winter needs to be in order to change those fortunes. It also has some questions being asked about whether or not Kerry Zavagnin is the right coach for this team after that rebuild. I'm not necessarily in the Kerry Zavagnin out phase of my relationship with him right now. Cody might be. We'll have a discussion about that and see whether or not he's doing the right things. I will say that I was not very pleased with what was the initial game plan in this one that they reverted from fairly quickly after Seattle scored the first goal. And it has me, again, raising questions about how those game plans come together, who's in charge of them, and whether or not they're as well thought out as they need to be. In Potpourri, our good friend Mauricio Pochettino got our favorite discourse rolling heavily this week by releasing a roster for these upcoming friendlies versus South Korea and Japan, and including a significant number of MLS players and making comments about how good the quality is of MLS in general. So as you can imagine, everyone had completely rational responses to this, and all is well in the world. No, it's just nothing will get this fan base quite as irate as discussions about MLS or including too many MLS players in the roster. So it was quite the thing. I don't know that it's quite as big of a deal as everyone's making it out to be, but that is generally the case when it comes to the men's national team. So we'll dig into that a little bit as well. The Kansas City Current win again, are on pace. I think mathematically, Mike Kuhn might have to check my math, but I think mathematically to eclipse Sporting Kansas City's highest points total in a season and do it in 26 games.
Is that good?
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. And also, Leagues Cup semifinals are, I think, starting here in a little bit as we're recording this. So it's all MLS teams, but some pretty fun matchups between those MLS teams, including the team that Sporting just played on Sunday. And we'll dig in. We'll do a quick preview of those, as well as a home game against the Colorado Rapids, who are sans one Georgi Mihailovic, but plus one Paxton Aronson. So we'll have to see how that works out for them. Cody, we knew this was going to be a tough game. Going to Seattle is always hard. It's a hard environment. They're very successful in front of their home fans, and it's a hard road trip. All the things involved. But we also said, hey, look, Seattle's injured. They're going to have to rotate because they played on Wednesday. They're going to have to play the next Wednesday. Perhaps this is an opportunity It didn't really play out that way. And I think the first thing that was the most eye-opening to me, and this is something that we have discussed quite a bit on this podcast as far as integrating youth players into the program and being able to call on them when needed to be able to provide useful performances, is that Seattle was able to do that in several positions on the field. With Reed Baker Whiting and Cody Baker and Schneider Brunel and Danny Leyva and Kosa Rienzi. They had so many young players who were replacing their other sort of homegrown-ish young players like Paul Rothrock and
Right.
players like that who had also kind of worked their way in. We saw Sazedi Rosario late in this game. There were a number of they've done such a good job of integrating youth into their program, as well as coaching that youth up to be effective in these environments. And perhaps that was probably the most stark thing to me, is that they had a bunch of young kids who hadn't played that much this year on the field, and they all look like pros compared to Sporting Kansas City roster that did have some young guys on the field, but a lot of them have thousands of minutes in this league or as professionals in general. It did not seem to be up to par.
Yeah, I think that the culture has a lot to do with that, and I think that Sporting Kansas City is obviously in the midst of a change in culture. The culture of the previous regime was not, it wasn't really, I think, friendly to a lot of youth players. That's been a concern of ours, and when you couple that with the sort of shallow talent pool in the Kansas City area, that explains a lot of it. But I think it's also maybe to the first point, the ability to bring young players in and have them play alongside of veteran players and have them be mentored and have them learn how to play. Basically, that's a luxury a lot of these young players on Sporting Kansas City have not really had. With the exception, I guess, probably of Jake Davis. And we saw that when Jake Davis was surrounded by competent veteran players, he had a fantastic season. He looked really great. And now that he's having to be one of the leaders on a team that is composed of a lot of kids who are as young as him or younger, that the luster is not as apparent, and so I think that it's just kind of part of where the club finds itself at this moment in time, and it's unfortunate, but I think that when you look at right now, Sporting Kansas City is one of the youngest teams in the league, right? Like, it is, I don't know, probably I think I looked today and it was like, I don't know, 6th or 7th maybe in terms of the age of the average starting lineup, and if you would have told us that a year ago, it would have been like huge news, and so that's a shift in the right direction, but. There hasn't been, it definitely has not been a bump up in quality that accompanied that, and I think that has maybe more to do with the lack of top end talent on the team, which is another thing that we talk about. It seems like every week.
Yeah, but I mean, I think to your point though, going back to what Seattle had like 2 or 3 guys on the field outside of Stephen Fry who you would consider to be veterans.
Right.
Everybody else. Like I said, it's Cody Baker, Snyder Brunel, Danny Leyva, Kalani Kosarienzi, Georgie Manungu. Like, these are all guys in their early 20s.
Right, Drew. But these guys are guys who have had chances. They've had spot starts throughout this season.
With good players.
Right,
yeah.
right. So
yeah,
so they have a better idea
Kalani
of
Kosarienzi's got like 1,200 minutes this year at fullback.
Right.
And he looks better than any fullback that Sporting has.
Manungo has played quite a bit, right? Like Manungo,
he's only got like 500 minutes, believe it or not.
Like, I mean, from last year, and he's been a part of that roster for some time.
Manungo's played very sparingly. He doesn't have a whole lot of league minutes. I think he's got like 900 league minutes in his whole career.
Counting last year too.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I guess he just impresses every time I see
He
him
pops
because it
off.
seems like,
He's usually a
yeah,
late sub. His
yeah,
speed is very,
yeah,
and that really pops off late in games.
this
But
is
it was
true.
also on display in this game. But yeah, I mean, it's just like they're so much better at getting quality out of their youth than Sporting has been, at least of recent years. I mean, Sporting, like, this has been, Matt Doyle has gone on about this forever and ever. You know, the early Peter Vermees Sporting Kansas City teams, the early 2010s, had a lot of young players on it, built through the draft and, you know, homegrown players. And I mean, sort of homegrown. I mean, Beasler's sort of a homegrown. You know, but also Kevin Ellis played a fairly significant role on this team for several years. There were you know, Eric Palmer Brown did play soccer for this team for a
Right.
bit. Like
Right.
they were actually a lot better about like bringing those players through, and that sort of stopped. And it
Yeah.
became more of a focus on acquiring technically gifted veterans. And I think this no more was that on display in this game for Sporting Kansas City, because I guess it's not 2 assists for Tim Leibel because one of them's an own goal, but it was it was the complete Tim Leibel experience.
Yeah.
2 absolutely perfect crosses into runs. The second one, Shallowly kind of fucks up, to be completely honest, and it ends up in an own goal. But the ball was so good that it ends up in an own goal.
Yep.
And then Mason Toy's goal early, that was one of the cleanest goals I've seen Sporting score all year.
Yeah.
But then could not give a shit less about closing down on 2 separate goal sequences. Like Leibold is basically useless at anything other than providing a service ball from in the attacking zone.
Yeah.
He's exceptional at it, but in the defensive half, he's either making a last minute slide tackle to try to block a ball or doing nothing in general.
Yeah.
But like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's this, and remember when when Sporting signed him, how sort of galaxy brained it sounded at the time, because he had Ndenbe and Ben Sweat.
Yeah.
And you're like, we're going to go sign this guy. Come to find out that with a last year escalator in his contract, it took him over almost to $1 million. So like, they've paid Leibold close to $3.5 million to play soccer here. I'm doing that math in my head, so it may not be exactly right, but it's in that range. And he is not a defender at all.
No, and he plays as a defender on the field. Like he cosplays as a defender.
They play
He's
in a back
position.
four. They
Yeah.
play in a back four. They have him playing a fullback position, and he cannot defend. Or can he play more than 60 or 70 minutes?
Yeah.
And it's just like, there's been so many of these choices that have just sort of been focused on one elite skill,
Yeah.
and they haven't found a whole lot of soccer players.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I was just casually browsing the Sporting Kansas City's FB Ref page today, as one does, and I noticed that they do have a lot of players who are like, their green bars are maxed on like 1 or 2 things, but that's it, and they're not the most important 1 or 2 things, generally speaking. And so
Only Darlington Nagby gets away with this.
Right,
He's the
right.
only guy that gets away with doing that.
Right. And so they don't have, they don't have well-rounded, good soccer players on the team, and it shows, right?
You know what was wild to me, and I think you texted me this during the game. I think Chad Reynolds texted me this during the game. The most soccer player guy they have is Zoran Basong.
Yeah, that's because he's dialed in, right? He's out there to play and mean business. And
Is it that sort of like nebulous, means business, tries hard, all that stuff, or is it just like he's actually a soccer player that like recognizes problems and tries to solve them?
I think it's a little bit of both, but I still I don't personally feel that he's probably a starting quality player on a top team in this league. But that said,
he's a top 15 player, I think, on most teams in this league. Probably. I mean,
yeah.
he and props to Zoe. He's going back to the Canadian national team. He got called
Yep.
up, and he deserved to be called up on the quality of his play, the quality of his play in the Gold Cup and the friendlies prior to that. Like, he deserved to be called up. I think he's nominally going to be behind Richie Larea at left back there, right? But I mean, he is legitimately like Zoran Basong. He keeps playing like this. He's probably going to play in a World Cup next year.
Right. Like I don't mean to shit on him. That wasn't my intention, because he has there's a lot of positive things that he brings to the table, and one of them is his versatility, right? And I think that that's a really important skill to have when you're, especially on a national team, but even for Sporting Kansas City. And this is why, I think that even if he wasn't still under contract for next year, this is a player that I think both of us would like to see return.
Well, he's not under contract. He's on an option.
He's on an option, right? Yeah,
but I mean, you got to be an absolute idiot not to pick up that one. Like I said, 17 players are either out of contract or on an option, but Zoran Basong is, given how low his compensation is for what his value is to this team, you pick up that option every time. Sure. Even if he can't be on the supplemental roster because he gets $200,000 next year, you still pick up that option.
Absolutely.
Like, he's 100% worth that.
And as a bonus, you get crepes, so it's all good.
Exactly. For those that aren't aware of what Cody's referring to, Behind the Shield this week was Zoran Basong in his apartment making crepes. Had his mom there, and he did a lot of cooking in that one. Yeah. He made all kinds of different sort of cuisine. So it was the Behind the Shields are always fun. There's always like a kind of fun little bent to them. So I think the week before that was Dejan Joveljic playing chess, right?
It was,
and he's very good at chess. Like, I knew he was good. I didn't realize how good he was. There was a conversation going on the footy Discord. So footy, I don't know what John Muller's calling this thing, FUTI. I don't know how it's pronounced, footy or anyway. There was a conversation about chess because they were talking about because Pulisic likes to play chess, so there's a conversation about what his rating was and whatnot. And those guys were all in like the 14 to 1600s, and I'm like, I think Joveljic is cleared 2600 at one point. Like, he's closing in on like master status. So yeah, he's definitely very good at it. Anyway, I digress. What Seattle was able to do in the first 20 to 30 minutes of this game, which was very easily exposed, an extremely high line by Sporting. So I was a little confused by this because Seattle had just struggled to get results in 2 straight matches. They lost at Minnesota. They had a 0-0 draw versus Puebla that they ended up winning in penalty kicks to move on to the semifinals of Leagues Cup. And both of those teams ran an extremely low line and just forced Seattle to try to break them down. Because without Rusnak, they don't really have any creators on the field. Seattle generally is very reliant on wing play behind the, hitting over balls or through balls to wing play behind the lines and then creating goal scoring chances via runs into crosses, right? Like, that is something they do. I was, 4-4-2, 4-3-3, 3-4-2-1, who cares? That aggressive line with like Jansen Miller pressing the midfield seemed like a really strange choice to me against this team. And Seattle exposed it over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what accounts for that choice. It's it seemed to play into Seattle's strengths and Sporting Kansas City's weaknesses, and so like, you get what you get then, right?
Was Jansen just going off script, or was this he did it too many times?
Yeah.
Is he feeling himself because he shaved his head? Like, I don't know what the hell's going on.
I mean, I think that the idea here is that that's kind of the trade-off that you make when you go with a 4-4-2, is that you lose numbers in the midfield, so you have to
bring a defender up to close. Yeah.
Right. And that's not something they would do, obviously, if they were playing a center back other than Robbie Bollitter. But even he struggled with it, and frankly, they shouldn't have done it.
Doing
it even with Leibold,
Jake struggled to rotate off of that. Like, that was the thing that I noticed, is like, no one recognized the pressure and realized there was a hole there.
Yeah,
that somebody else was responsible to cover. Because that's the thing. It's like, when you decide to when a central defender decides to press up into the midfield, his momentum is such that someone has to be aware of
Hmm.
the space behind, and like when the ball goes in, like if they see the ball potentially going, you're already rotating into that. And neither Shelton nor Davis
Right.
seem to be really clued into the fact that they would have to do that. So I
Right.
can't tell. That's why I'm not sure if Jansen's going off script or these guys just aren't reading the game situation very well.
I mean, I think it's probably more of B. I mean, I don't think Shelton had a very good game. I don't think he's been very good this season at all. And I think that playing, we would kill the coach, metaphorically speaking, if they tried to run a high line like that with like Andreo Fontes. And running that high line with Tim Leibold and Kyrie Shelton, that's not much better, frankly, because
Well,
because
especially
because
and yeah, especially with
Leibel's slow as shit, and
mhm.
and Shelton's defensive awareness is not what it needs to be, and he constantly gets caught too far upfield. He generally has the speed and athleticism to track back and cover for mistakes, but um, that
It's weird because like as a 1v1 defending fullback, he's pretty
yeah,
decent.
sure,
And as a recovery fullback, he's pretty decent because of his athleticism. But he doesn't read space. He doesn't read rotations very naturally. And
right,
yeah, Leibold thinks he's a winger. Like he's a winger playing fullback. He doesn't
right,
really. He couldn't be arsed to like come to track back. And honestly, like Mike Kuhn mentioned this on the Discord, with as narrow as Munoz tends to play, there's a lot of space over there for
yeah,
Leibold to try and cover.
yeah.
And so there's it didn't work. It
Yeah,
didn't work.
I was that was one of the things that I was really disappointed with. Honestly, it was trying Santi Munoz at left midfield wide. I
It's
did
two
not.
straight games he was basically useless in that
Yeah, I
position.
mean, it takes away all of the things that he does well, and it takes him out of the part of the field where he does things well, and I just don't like. I don't get it. I don't understand. And it's one thing if you have a healthy Ndembe over there who is really filling that space on the left wing, but that's not. Leibold is not covering enough ground and not covering enough defensively in order to sort of make that happen, and so. It just didn't seem like um, it didn't seem like a good strategy from the outset.
Yeah,
And
I don't know what
I
they're
would
expecting Munoz to do over there. I'm really sort of confused by it in general, because I think a lot of what Toy does as a second forward could be done as a right winger.
totally agree. Totally agree. And
So,
even though we
and
so even
at
though we
which
were
point, you can roll Shallowy over to the left side,
right.
put Munoz underneath, and run sort of a 4-2-3-1
That's what
kind
I
of
would have
thing.
preferred, even though we were clamoring for Shallowy to be on the right wing. I would have
We were clamoring
definitely
for him to do it as a wide midfielder.
right, right.
Like if you're gonna run wide midfielder, Shallowy makes more sense on the right side, and he
Uh-huh.
does. Well, he doesn't really score, but But it also reminded me of the fact that Shallowy does the same shit Munoz and Tommy do, which is go centrally, go towards the
Yeah,
goal. They just have they're inside forwards more than they are wingers, right? And they're just like they have the mindset of going centrally to where goal is. That's just kind of how they play, and at least when Shalhoub has played at left wing, and I was reminded of it in this game, he's able to receive wide and cut in on his dominant foot.
right,
When he's on the right side, he has to go centrally to get the ball onto his dominant foot. So it's
right.
a little different, and I don't know. I mean, I was watching this game and reminded of the fact that a lot of these players have limitations,
Yeah,
and it's a matter of like finding the best way to employ them. And we did suggest the setup they went with was what we suggested should have been the starting setup the previous week, and it did. I mean, I don't think Shallow was bad. I think he was anonymous.
yeah.
I don't think he really was bad anyway. Just didn't really impact the game very much. It's two straight games. Joveljic hasn't really done much in a game, and so maybe this 4-4-2 is great for Mason Toye, but not so much for Dejan Joveljic.
Yeah, and there's not much interplay between the two of them, and I think that is whenever you if you run a two striker system, that's what you have to bet on, is that those two strikers are going to play well with one another and be able to make off ball runs off of each other and get the ball to one another.
Doesn't
And
seem
that's
like
just not.
Jovic's game, really.
No, 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 it's not. It's not. And I think what we're finding is just more and more Jovic has uh, a very limited skill set, a very important potentially and lethal skill set, but it's very limited, and it just seems like moving forward that should be catered to like exclusively, especially in
Right.
attack, and like not like stop fucking around, right? Jovic does not need to touch the ball, 40 yards from goal. Jovic needs to
Yeah,
touch
we
the
said
ball.
this about Polito. Like, get him
Uh,
touches in the box. Like, the
right,
guy's a lethal scorer. Just
right.
get him touches in the box.
This
And
is
to be
this
fair, like, Jovic does get a lot of touches in the box.
He does.
He
He just doesn't turn them into shots, which is a problem.
right, right. He's looking too perfect of a shot,
He's
which
one of
is
the league leaders in touches in the box, and
he's also one of the league leaders in goals scored. Like, he's like fifth in the league in goals
well,
scored.
but a healthy, a not insignificant number of those were penalty kicks. So
Yeah,
there is that caveat too.
there
But
is, there is.
I don't. We're not down on Jovic. Like, I'm not down on Jovic.
No.
I think he's been a good signing. He's what's advertised. I'm fine with that. It's just the things happening around him could be better.
I agree completely. But I mean, I think it goes back to the point, which is this team's just, I mean, we said it all year, it's just not very good. And so when they go against an opponent like this, even one that's heavily rotated, I mentioned this to you before we started recording. And I all these players got minutes at the Club World Cup. All of them got minutes in Leagues Cup against, good Liga MX teams. They just play the game at a speed that Sporting is just not equipped to play.
Yeah.
It's all there is to it. They read space, they read time. They're just ahead of the game in a way that Sporting just is not. I think I mentioned this when they played Vancouver on the road. It was a very similar situation where you just saw a team that was playing at a pace that Sporting was just ill-equipped to participate in. And that is what all those competitions do for you. There's the whole cliche about iron sharpening iron, but there is some value to, especially for young players, being exposed to those types of environments and being exposed to what it's like to play against PSG.
Yep.
Your brain has to recalibrate pretty fast, and it teaches you to see things in a different speed. And I just don't think Sporting has the players. I think their veterans are not equipped to play at that speed, and old dog new tricks kind of come to mind when it comes to that. And I think their young players have not been exposed enough to an environment where they can learn it in an effective way to be able to do that as well, right? So it's like you combine those two things together and you see a team like Seattle who has been sort of they've dealt with this type of situation, and they have been sort of blooded in that environment already, and they were prepared to come and play. And Sporting was just not. And so you take young players who have the energy and the physicality and the stamina to do that, as well as the fact that they have recalibrated their soccer brain for the speed as well, and it showed. And it's something that Sporting's really got to get their arms around, because it's just and I want to be completely clear, they're missing a lot of key players in this one. We've talked about how big of a deal Eric Tommy being out of the lineup is. I didn't want to consider how big of a deal it is, but it for this team it's significant. Manu Garcia, obviously, another one who tends to settle things down in midfield with his ability to possess the ball, receive the ball under pressure, and turn it forward. There's a variety of things that, especially the way that Seattle plays, he would have been able to negate, I think.
Yeah.
But that they're so reliant on those players, whereas a team like Seattle is not, is I think the stark difference.
for all of Tommy's imperfections as a player, like he can play at that speed, and Manu also can play at that speed, and they're one of the only they're like the only two players on the team who can do that on a regular basis, and so when you don't have either one of them, you're left looking like you're stuck in mud, right? And that's the the soccer is the same game. Like rec league soccer is the same game as uh, really high level Champions League soccer for the most part. It's all the same stuff. It's every level up you go is just faster and faster. It's just a speed of play thing, and so you have to be more technically proficient, and you have to be able to process. And as you noted, like these are players for the most part who really can't do that, and that's why. That's why if to my point earlier, when you have young players like Seattle's young players, when you have them practicing and playing with veterans who are able to recreate that level, that speed of play in practice environments, it helps, right? And Sporting doesn't have that, and I think that really the only way Sporting gets that is with a whole cadre of new players.
Well, it, it appears that is supposed to happen this winter. We'll see
Yep.
how that goes, right? Like and what that actually becomes, but that certainly seems to be the plan. We'll get to kind of what our thoughts are on how well they are set up to execute that plan here in a minute. But the other problem that happens for Sporting in this game is because they can sort of feel themselves sort of losing control and losing a lot of duels and not imprinting the game in the way that they want or getting into adverse situations defensively, is you get some young inexperienced players trying to do too much.
Yep.
I mean, Jansen Miller had by far his worst game
Mm-hmm.
for Sporting. It was not good. He's lost a couple times on the two goals,
Yep.
making poor choices in those circumstances. Jacob Bartlett comes on is playing hyper aggressively, which at some level I like, but also like you need to be able to understand what you're doing. Makes a really nice tackle, and then like a very aggressive tackle, and then like 2 minutes later makes
Yeah.
a really bad one and gives up a penalty. It's just Jake, I think, struggled a little bit in this game to really like find it and like make an impact on it. Like we were very high on Jake in the previous game, in the second half against Vancouver, like the impact that he made on the game. He was not near as impactful in this one as he had been. So these are things that happen, right? They happen in these types of games. You need to, as young players, you need to see and be in these environments. You need to make these mistakes. Ian James got to play like 30 minutes in this one and see what the environment was, which is good. Ian James also got called up to the U17 camp in the Netherlands, so good for him.
Yeah.
That's a really good U17 team, by the way. Like,
Yep.
I know we'll have U.S. men's national team talk in a minute, but I know that there's a lot of people like kind of where are we going to be for the World Cup next year, and I understand where that comes from, but I have long been of the belief that this quote-unquote golden generation was just the beginning.
Yeah.
There are so many good academies in the country now, both with MLS and non-affiliated academies, that we're going to start seeing some legitimate high-quality players coming through. We have, obviously, everyone knows about Kevin Sullivan and whatnot, but Sporting's got one in Kashawn Hines, who is one of the best 09s in the country. Ian James, one of the best 08s in the country. He's going to be with this U17 team. There's a bunch of really good players on that U17 team that are going to be in that camp. So I think from that perspective, there's a lot of positives coming. But this type of environment,
at some point, it's a numbers game, and if you have enough kids going to high level
100%.
academies, if you have enough kids going over to Europe to play, then like you're gonna start to get some.
and you still have
super
the
high
Noah Kai
quality.
Banks' the world and
Sure.
the Luca
Absolutely.
Colioshos and all that
Yep.
kind of stuff who are
Yep.
playing in Europe, who are of American descent. So like all that stuff is going to continue to happen as well. But Sporting in this one had a lot of young players on the field that I choose to believe this was a learning experience for them. Because they're playing around a bunch of guys who are not like that much more experienced than them as far as
Right.
players.
Right.
And they saw them getting pretty well beat up. And made some poor decisions and made some mistakes and whatnot. And I do think that, or I hope that this is an opportunity for them. I know Jansen. I feel pretty confident that Jansen's going to take this one and learn from it and get better. I feel pretty confident that Jacob Bartlett will do the same. But I also do think that there is that benefit to this season that coming into next year, these guys will have had this experience, which I think is really important.
Yeah, I totally agree. And look, like it's completely plausible that that Jansen Miller's gets replaced as a starter next year, but is still on the team and is still a developing and contributing member of the team. And I don't like you can't discount that component of it too, right? Just if a better player is brought in and he loses his spot, that's not the end of the world. Um, um, it's just potentially another step in his development. I mean, he's still young, and especially for a center back, and he I think brings a lot to the team that's important even beyond his play on the field. And I still think that we've seen enough positive things from him this season that we shouldn't be too down on a rough performance.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't know that he's going to be replaced. I'm not suggesting that he should be replaced. I'm just saying that he's had a pretty good season for a rookie center back.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I don't know that he's had to deal with this level of adversity before, and that's probably good. Like, I mean, you can get a little high on your own supply as a rookie doing this well and sort of shepherding the line and really being the only right in pen starter on the back line this season.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
You can get a little full of yourself. You go shave your head finally and do all this stuff, and then you come out and you put out a stinker. I mean, it was a bad match for Jansen. Yeah. Like, honestly, it was. But I feel confident that he's not the type of guy that's going to take that or not do, not be, or not take it upon himself to improve, right? And
no,
learn
next
from
time he's gonna body slam Masovsky, and it'll be throwback to Amelia, and it'll be great.
I mean, he's lazy on the goal before halftime, where Masovsky gets the free header. Like, he's tracking Masovsky the whole way and gets him just a very like token sort of.
Yeah.
And then right after halftime, when they get the third goal, I mean, most of this is rotational stuff. I mentioned in the Discord I was going to talk about this. I don't know if I'm going to go through the full breakdown on this, but it is endemic towards things that Sporting Kansas City struggles to deal with. We've talked about a lot. Once one thing goes wrong, nobody is able to sort of reset.
Yep.
It just continues to be a ongoing domino of bad things that continue to happen. So like, Kyrie Shelton is way out of position when the ball goes wide. Miller decides not to close very aggressively. He decides to stay home, which I don't. On the face of it, I sort of understand the decision that he's making. Mm-hmm. The problem is that there's so much time there on the ball to pick out the pass.
Yeah.
And then Robbie Volliter is sort of left, like, because Tim Leibold's not coming in to cover, so like Volliter's sort of left kind of on his own to manage the far post run. And it's just, it was this domino effect of like rotations that were supposed to happen because one guy was out of position, and none of them were really done, or none of them were done at an effective enough way to cut out the goal scoring chance.
Yeah.
And this is a problem this team has. Like I said, their defending is not so much they need a new back line or they need, this position filled. It's that their team defending is just poor.
Interesting.
right? Am I wrong about
No,
this?
no, you're not wrong. But I mean, that gets to the coaching conversation. But yes, you're right.
Okay, so let's talk about the coaching conversation because you asked me about this. It's like, are we going to have a KZ out conversation on the podcast this week? I wasn't necessarily going to phrase it that way, but there's certainly some questions to be asked, kind of like how this team is being coached. Because as I noted, the beginning of this game, the game plan seemed a little bit
Iffy,
iffy, yeah, confusing.
ill-advised.
Choose your adjective.
Uh-huh.
But none of them are positive.
Naive.
Regarding naive, yeah. Sort of like, yeah, just didn't seem to take into account the opponent they were playing and what that
Yeah.
opponent would try to do and how to account for that. It was more like, this is what we're going to try to do. And that kind of goes a little bit back towards the Peter Vermees mindset of coaching, which is we're going to force them to play our game, not vice versa. And it goes back to a conversation that you and I have had a lot and that you've brought up a lot, which is the two Kerry Zavagnins, right? The pragmatist that sees what's happening in game and makes changes to adjust for that, who seems to understand soccer pretty well and do those things. And then the guy who comes up with a game plan or puts out a game plan pregame that may or may not make a whole lot of sense based on, and again, it's easy to Monday morning quarterback this. We saw the game, but I mean, we were 10 minutes into the game and before Seattle scored, I was like, well, why are we running this line? Why is Jansen Miller in the midfield? What in the world is happening? And Seattle kept exposing it over and over, and it was just a matter of time. And sure enough, that's what happened. And after the goal happened, they stopped doing that so much.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the players did it or Kerry instructed them to do it or what, but they stopped doing it so much and things settled down, at least for a while. I'm reliably informed that generally the game plan, at least under Vermees, came from Ash Wallace, who's the assistant coach, was an assistant with Kerry as well. That may still be the case as far as like how the entire game plan gets put together, who's doing what. So perhaps that's Kerry empowering Ash to put that together, and if that's the case, that's fine. But he's still the head coach, or he's the interim head coach.
The buck stops with you. That's the thing.
You can say no, we're not doing that.
Yep, absolutely. And maybe he did. It just took a goal to spur that decision on.
Maybe so. I don't know, but still, there are questions to be asked about kind of like why this team can't put a 90-minute performance in.
Yeah,
tactically,
it's just one of many, Drew. It's like what does this team do well?
Well, I mean, they're not very good, so they don't do a whole lot well.
But I mean, even from a coaching aspect, right? Like even if you have bad players, you can focus on there are things that you can control as a coach. And I don't know that when I watch this team that I see those things being controlled.
Yeah. And this is a conversation you and I've had before about like, have we gone so far away from regimented, like controlled soccer to put guys in positions, expect them to play?
This is like nihilism soccer. Like what do you believe in, right? Like you don't believe in anything. It's just like throw your guys out there. Like I'm being flippant, but that's kind of in this day and age in MLS very specifically, like teams with an identified style and a set of principles, they are successful, right? They have a solid foundation to build
most
upon.
Of them. I'm not sure Inter Miami has any of
that.
Those.
That does not count, Drew. Come on, you know that doesn't count. Come on.
I had to say it mainly because
the principle there is do whatever Messi wants.
But I think that I brought up the example because it reminds me a little bit of how Sporting plays. I don't know that there's just like a hey, here's my buddies around me, find a place.
Sporting is what if Inter Miami, but with terrible players. Yeah. I
Exactly.
mean,
If you ran if you had Javier Mascherano as your coach, but $100 million less investment,
right.
what would it look like?
Um, yeah. So I'm just it's I'm perpetually confused about what Zavagnin's like overarching sort of goals and his style of play and his the principles that drive what he's trying to do are, and at some point that's just not really excusable, right? Like
Right.
that is a interim coach coaching, not somebody who you want to hire for next season, and that's kind of the way that I've come to see it. Whether fairly or unfairly, is I I think this is kind of a chance for Kerry to dip his toe into the coaching water, and it's very clear that this was his first shot at it, and he's not quite at the level that he needs to be at.
I have to couch a lot of this in the fact that this team is not very good, and it's
Hundred
short on
percent,
players, and it's
hundred
short on
percent,
its on a number of its good players. So like
absolutely.
realistically, what can you expect? But I think what you're saying is you could expect some sort of defined idea of how to
Yep,
play.
yep.
And to be fair, in the first 30 minutes of this game, they had a defined idea how to play. It was just
It was the
ill-advised.
wrong one, right?
It was
Well,
sort of galaxy brained and didn't really make a whole lot of sense. And I think that also the team wasn't executing it very well. So like
yeah,
that's the problem. If you're meaning to do something, they should be pretty dialed into it. Whether they're good
right.
at it or not is a separate thing. But it didn't seem cohesive in any way. Like that was my main
Yep.
issue with it. Is it didn't seem connected and well defined and sort of coached. We discussed before we started recording the pod. This is your Spurs talk of the week. Spurs versus Manchester City. Thomas Frank, we know him to be sort of a pragmatist coach. He will coach in different ways for the opponent and sort of
Hmm.
and ask the team to do different things based on the opponent. Spurs were the most violently pressing version of themselves I've ever seen them in the first half of that game against City, and created like multiple chances, got 2 goals up, and then he got it at halftime. He's like, okay, we're up 2-0 away at Manchester City. We cannot press this way for 90 minutes. We'll be dead.
Hmm.
And he just pulled the line of confrontation back and went into more of a mid block and just sort of tried to manage, and it worked. But that's what I'm saying is like that's coaching.
Yep.
And Spurs were exceptionally organized in both phases of that. Like
Yep.
they knew what to do. I didn't see that against Seattle. I haven't
Right.
seen that for several weeks. I'm not sure I've seen it at all under Kerry, where like they have a completely clear, organized idea, other than the shackles have been removed from the very rigid sort
Hmm.
of Peter Vermees type of philosophy.
No, it's more. It seems to be more of like throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks, and that makes for more entertaining soccer for sure. But that's not the long term management strategy that I want for the club that I support. I want an experienced coach who knows who identifies the problem, knows how to fix the problem, and then sets about executing a plan to fix the
This
problem.
is the thing that sucks is he knows how to fix the problem, because when the problem happens in game, he makes a change
Right.
and adjusts to it.
Right.
So what's happening that like he can't see the problem before it happens,
I mean, I think that it
or
could
the
be.
or the team is improperly prepared for the problem?
He is an inexperienced coach. I think is a
I
he
mean,
might
he's
not
been
have.
Peter Vermees' assistant for 15
Right, but
years.
being a head coach is different, right? And being a head coach means that you have to delegate, and then you have to listen and consider to your point earlier, to the advice of others, and either accept it or go your own path. And I think that he still might be filling out, when to trust his gut and when to trust somebody else. And that's completely just reading into a situation. Who knows if that's the case? But everything that I see speaks of a coach that, like, much like a player who has potential, who does some good things, but has not yet displayed sort of the
Yeah.
high ceiling necessary to carry the job forward long term. and which sucks because he's a good guy and I like him and I think that he's a smart guy in terms of soccer. But that's those are like minimum. Being smart about soccer is like the minimum qualification, right? It's not you. There's so much more that has to happen.
You already argued my point before I brought it up, which was
Oh,
that he's one of the smarter soccer guys I've ever talked to. Like he's
yeah,
really intelligent about the game. But I think what you highlighted before that was actually more important. There is a sort of I don't know, dictatorial is the wrong phrase, but you are grand poobah over what you see as the head coach, right? Like
yeah,
it is
hmm
your charge not only to motivate this group and get them bought in and do all the things, delegate and build a staff, get that staff bought in, delegate stuff to them. And there's some limitations that Zavagnin has there too, with Ash Wallace and
sure,
Roger Espinoza as his only
yep,
coaches.
yep,
I'm not counting Dufty; he's a goalkeeping coach. That doesn't count. So like he has, it's him and two other guys are coaching this team. And one of them is a first year coach. Like it's a difficult situation for him to be in, to
yeah,
understand where to delegate, how to empower his staff the right way, how to motivate his team the right way. Like this is a very much a trial by fire thing for him too.
yep,
And I think that he's probably learning a lot at the same time.
totally
I
agree.
think I think he thinks about the game in a way that I really want a coach to think about the game.
hmm
I think to your point, he doesn't have the experience in when to say this is what we're doing and we're going to do it.
Right.
And just really like have a clear opinion
Yep. Here's what I don't.
and tell everybody this is what we're doing. I'm the head coach.
Yep.
This is what we're doing. As opposed to going, okay, well, your idea sounds like something we could work with. Let's try to make that work, right? Like I feel like that's the assistant's mindset, right?
Yep.
This is what the coach wants to do. Let's make it work. Ash Wallace comes to him with an idea. He's like, let's see how to make that work, as opposed to saying, no, this is what I want the team to do.
Yep.
I don't know if that's true or not, but it feels a little bit that way.
It does. Um, and the thing is, what I really don't want to have happen is, so let's say massive squad turnover this winter, and the club ownership invests a lot of money, 10 to 20 million dollars, and we have a bunch of new players, and everybody's jazzed, and it's still learning on the job next season for KZ, and you end up, ownership gets impatient, and you sack him halfway through the season because you expected him to learn on the job more quickly, right? Like that's a very plausible scenario, and it's unfair to everybody involved. And I just like it seems too plausible to me, and I haven't seen enough from him to for me to feel that's not a real possibility. And I would rather him go, cut his teeth in USL or, at somebody else's club,
Well,
right?
but when
Like,
you've been an assistant for 15 years, you're sort of foregoing
hey
USL and
man,
all that
I
nonsense.
understand that, but that's his decision. It's not mine. Like
Right.
I want my club to win. I want my club to be competitive, and I don't want to sacrifice that to get him experience. It,
I'm not saying sacrifice it.
I know,
I mean,
I know.
there is a component of this where I'm not really sure without a chief soccer officer, right? Without all of this, who is telling Kerry what to do?
Right. Probably nobody. But that is super half-assed.
Well, but who's there to do it?
Right. No, I agree with you, but that is a half-assed way to run an organization.
It
And
is, but it is what they put themselves. It's a situation they put
yep,
themselves in. With
totally
Vermees
agree.
being in control of literally everything.
Yep.
Once you remove him, there's no OCD guy in control of everything. In fact, there's nobody in general.
So why hang on to the vestiges of that? Why not just start brand new, right? And why
I mean, I'm not saying don't. I'm just saying that
I know.
I'm saying that I think Kerry Zavagnin is a coach that would work really well with a strong chief soccer officer with a game model and a plan and an idea. And he would implement the plan and he would
Maybe.
be effective at it. I think where he's struggling right now is that he is being asked to come up with all of it on his own.
Yeah.
So, yes, for 15 years, he's prepared with some ideas and some things that he wants to do, but he has literally zero support.
Yeah.
He's basically out there on his own trying to run this team by himself.
He
With
learned from the best how to do
with
that.
with a shitty roster that was
Yeah.
ill conceived, and I do agree that there's been some concern about who is or how he's done it. Like I think this 4-4-2 solves one problem and creates a lot of others.
Yeah. That's coaching. That's soccer, man. I mean, that's what happens. Every decision you make does that to one degree or another. And even if you're a club, even if you're at the top of the sport, that's the case, right? You're, you let your star right back walk away, and next thing you know, you're starting Dominic Soboslai at right back. That's not ideal, right? Like shit happens, and that you just have to kind of deal with it. And I think that in some respects, I think Kerry's done a good job. I think that this conversation is really colored by not having Manu Garcia on the field for the last handful of games, because I felt like Kerry had done a decent job at unlocking Manu and Joveljic, and that's like, to me,
Isn't that
that's
the
like
most important job of
that's
an
the most
MLS coach?
that is right. Like that's like that would be the minimum expectation, and that would but because Manu's not on the field, right, it colors the way that you look at that. And now, like, oh, Decky's had two poor games in a row, and what are we doing out there? And so I'm not trying to act like this is like a straightforward, indictment, because it's not. There are definitely positive things in Zavagnin's um, corner. It's just, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know. I mean, you just
I
have
mean,
to think. You just have to think as a fan, right? Like if your ownership invests $15 million in a new roster, like are you comfortable handing that over to KZ? I mean, that's basically, I think, what it comes down to.
I think that's going to be the new chief soccer officer's decision to make, to be completely honest. And I think it is reasonable to question whether or not that is the right decision to make. I don't know that I know the answer to it. I think that there are data points I don't have access to
Sure.
regarding that.
Yeah.
All I can do is what I see. I can understand why you would have questions about it, and I have questions as well. I think the last data point is just, and he's it's probably a little bit unfair because he's going against who is now the most tenured coach in the league, and Brian Schmetzer.
Yeah.
But you see how well coached that team is.
Yeah, and it's and
I mean, it's a chasm between the two.
as you mentioned earlier, though, it's like not even that straightforward. It's like yeah, they're well coached, but they have a much better built out sort of infrastructure and a more established um, uh, pipeline of
Youth
young
integration
players. And right,
philosophy,
right.
and
There's
yeah,
there's there's a lot more positives there, that right now is sort of in complete rebuild and mode and disarray with Sporting Kansas City. But um, so that's maybe another data point in Kerry's favor. It's not. I don't mean to imply that it's a straightforward decision, because I don't believe that it is. I'm just leaning more towards no than yes.
I think not winning a single game out of the last six will do that to you, especially in the way that they've lost a lot of
Heck
these
yeah,
games.
absolutely.
So current evidence is certainly playing into our mindset when it comes to how we evaluate this.
Yep.
I I, I don't know.
But even that, like I said, you have to couch that in terms of, like, yeah, you're missing Eric Tommy and Manu Garcia. You're two of your best players for most
Two of your
of
three best
those times,
players are
right?
unavailable.
So Yeah, it's tough. It's a
But
tough one for
again,
sure.
we go back to the Sounders having half of their best players injured or
Yeah.
unavailable, and starting
Yep.
Danny Leyva as a 10.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
I
I know.
again, I mean, it just go. I think it just. I think that Jacob Bartlett and Jansen Miller probably look way better right now if they're playing around a Seattle Sounders type roster than they
100%.
do around this one. So like all
Yep.
of that, like just the level raises everyone.
Yep.
And when you're at a low level, it's hard for that level to pump up at the speed that you need. And I'm hopeful again that this game sort of was an eye opener to some of these young players, and it sort of helps them in some way. I just desperately wish they just go to a back three. Like they don't have fullbacks, man. They don't
It
have
does
them.
it does seem to solve a lot of problems. Like just
When
the
you
more
have
we
no
think about it,
fullbacks, perhaps you
yeah.
should stop trying to use them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, okay.
I wonder what the impediment is. I wonder what's the holdup. Is it like,
It doesn't change their possession structure that much. Like
it
I
doesn't
don't.
seem to. Yeah. I
They've
don't
done
know.
it before, moving Bartlett in the middle of a back three. Like
Mhm.
they've done
At
it
the end
in
of games,
games.
sure.
They
Yeah.
know the structure.
Uh-huh. It seems pretty straightforward. It allows you, and as we as we discussed previously multiple times, it allows you to get all of your best players on the field in, relatively speaking, their best areas on the field, their most
You no
productive
longer
areas.
have to play Santu Munoz as a left winger. You no
Right.
longer have to
That's a
play Mason.
mistake.
Like Mason Toy can play as a second forward,
Yep.
or he can play underneath with Munoz underneath Joveljic. Like there's a variety of ways you
I
can do
bet you.
this.
I bet you he could play wing back.
I don't know that I want to do that, but I mean, Kyrie Sheldon certainly can.
Absolutely.
Like there are just it solves so many problems, and I just
Yeah.
I don't understand what the reticence is. I mean, we're at the point now where I'm not sure it makes much difference in this season, other than trying something out that might be useful in the future. But again,
Right.
if all these guys are gone, then what difference does it make? I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna stop whining about it. Let's move on to potpourri. Just like your favorite Jeopardy category, we got a few topics in around the sport in Kansas City MLS soccer sphere. The first one is our favorite thing to bring up: U.S. men's national team discourse. It's discoursing. All the discourse is happening. So Mauricio Pochettino releases his September international break camp list. So there's 2 friendlies during this break. I mentioned in the intro, it's Japan and South Korea. And I think the expectation was after the Gold Cup that, okay, now all the European
The
players
real
are going to
players
come
are
back
gonna
in.
come. Yeah.
The quote unquote real players are coming
Uh-huh.
back. Not so much.
No.
Not so much. In some cases, yes. In some cases, no. And there are still quite the preponderance of MLS players. Certainly many more than when Greg Berhalter was in charge of this team,
Mm-hmm.
when he was oft accused of being MLS quota guy. And Poch had some things to say about it when they did the press conference, making comments on the lines of. Go ahead.
His wording is, I don't know, obviously English is not his first language, but his wording is curious.
He knows what he's saying. He knows what he's saying.
That's what I thought. He said that MLS is as competitive as some of the leagues, and
As some
he didn't say-
European leagues. He didn't say which
better.
European leagues.
Right, he didn't say which, and he didn't say better. He said as competitive. And he's not wrong in that.
I think that word competitive is important because I
Yeah.
think it goes back to kind of a thing he's been talking about since the Nations League game, and I really do think has been an issue with this team since Copa America last year. I distinctly remember I went to that game at Arrowhead when they played against Uruguay, and Uruguay obviously extremely talented team with
Yep.
a lot of really good players on it, but none of those guys took that game for granted. Like the way that they played in that game was at extremely high intensity, going after every ball with just the highest level of passion and control. Like they were in it. Uruguay didn't have to win. I guess they did it. Did they have to win that game? I think they were going to advance regardless, but still, like
I thought that maybe for seeding.
Yeah, the professionalism at which they approached that game was like they were trying to win a final. Like
Yeah.
that is how they came at it. And the US just didn't have that level and was not able to match it. And they were obviously not able to match it against Panama. Tim Weah's stupid red card. Like there's
Yeah.
just a variety of things. Like this team has not played, and this has been a complaint of
Yep.
many U.S. men's national team fans for a
Yep.
while, that this team does not have the passion or whatever you want to call it. I don't want to get into that sort of topic because Landon Donovan did it with the whole thing about Pulisic sitting out the Gold Cup, which I think was way overblown, even though it turned into this other dumb thing with his documentary and all the other comments about it. I'm not getting into all that stupid shit, which is really meant for engagement more than anything else. But what I will say is like they're not approaching the game with the same level of intensity that we're familiar with seeing this team play with, because typically the team has been at a talent deficiency, so they've had to outwork the opponent a little bit, right, to be able to get results. That was kind of a calling card for the U.S. men's national team for a long time, and they've lost that with this group for sure. They don't play with
Against
that level.
against everybody but Mexico. For a while, it was like Mexico was the only team that they could get up to play.
Yeah.
Um,
And I mean, and in fairness, some of those wins against Mexico, they got dominated in and they got the result out of, right?
Right.
Like 2021 Nations League, they did not deserve to win that game, but they won
Right.
it. Like it was a big deal. 2022, 2023, they pretty well handled Mexico.
Yeah.
And then going into that Copa America last year, I don't know if they got big for their britches. I don't know what the hell happened, but they lost that level of bite and intensity to how they play. And it's been a problem since then. And you saw them crash out in the Nations League with Poch in March, April, whenever it was. When was the LA? When were those games in LA? Was it April or June? No, April, right? Whatever. Earlier this year. And Poch has been pretty open since then about like wanting to get a culture of competition
Yeah.
inside the team. And I think that's what he's trying to do here. Whether it's galaxy brained or not, whether any of these guys believe that, like, whether, because Brian White was supposed to be called into this team as well, and whether Fuller and Balogun or Haji Wright actually thinks they're behind Brian White on the depth chart is sort of irrelevant. Realistically, he's trying to send a message here. And you could tell that both in the January camp and in the friendlies, the camp for the friendlies, where they didn't do that great, especially against Switzerland.
Yeah.
But in the Gold Cup, where they sort of battled their way to the final, like he appreciated that. And I will tell you, my experience with Mauricio Pochettino is he is a guy who likes to challenge his players.
Yeah.
He does challenge them. Like he is going to challenge them physically. He's going to challenge them mentally. He's going to push them. And he wants guys who respond to that. Notoriously, he's the only guy that's gotten Dele Alli to play good soccer. And Dele Alli was fantastic
Yeah.
under Pochettino, and he has been absolute ass since then.
Complete ass.
So, there is something to his method that works, but I think a lot of people are getting fired up because there's only 4 windows left to the World Cup, and they're like, he needs to be bringing this team together and all this nonsense. And Poch is like, no, I've got to set a standard for my expectations with this team. And this is my team, not Christian Pulisic's team, not Weston McKennie's team, not whoever. It's like, I'm the coach of this team, and you're going to earn your right to play here. And that is why you bring the Argentine world-class soccer coach to your team, is to instill that type of culture. Whether or not the choices he makes make sense, the shit he says in the press conference makes sense, all of that's words. I don't care about any of that. It's more about, is he actually accomplishing what he's setting out to do?
And that remains to be seen. I mean,
yeah.
The thing is that it probably realistically doesn't move the needle very far one way or the other about how far the United States advances. Like the United States is not even in a World Cup on the United States soil. It's not likely that the United States makes it to a semifinal. and it's probably just given where the country stands in just global rankings and soccer culture. They probably they're always on the cusp of whether they're a team that can even make it out of the group or not. And that's just where that's like reality check. That's just where the country is, right? Like in terms of just where its standing is in the global game. And one guy, regardless of who he's coached in the past, is not going to change that. And I think probably we both think that Greg did a pretty good job with the team at the last World Cup, as well as could be expected with such a shallow roster, especially in terms of the midfield. And at this point, it's just what the United States has been doing has not really worked, and so why not, especially right here, during this World Cup when you don't have the pressure of qualification, why not mix it up? If the U.S. had to qualify, I bet that Pochettino would be going around it about this in a pretty different way, but they don't, and so why wouldn't you put as much pressure as you can? And one last point I wanted to make, and this is probably the absolute nicest thing I will ever say about the city of St. Louis. Like I have never ever given up my Josh Sargent stock, and I will never. And so I'm waiting for that dude to come good on it. And when he does,
I
I will
hope
be
so,
laughing.
man. I hope so. I have concerns about him doing that under Pochettino because the best center forwards under Pochettino have been high usage strikers, and
Sure,
Josh Sargent is not that.
he
Josh
has not.
Sargent is the guy who will literally be absent for an hour and then score a goal.
Yeah,
And that is kind of how he plays, and I don't know if that's going to work out under Poch or not, but he's also a guy that I agree with you. I think his quality is there. The big update before we started recording is that because they had only named 22, Brian White was supposed to be 23, and he was not able to go due to injury. They did bring Fuller and Balogun, so
I see.
who is just played very well in his season opener for Monaco, and scored a goal, and obviously dealt with a lot of injury issues last year, and hasn't for the national team really been much of a player for a year and a half or so.
He hasn't even played for under Pochettino, has he?
I
Like
don't
not
believe
even once.
he was injured. I think he's been
Yeah.
injured or kind of in a weird situation with his club the whole time. So yeah, the expectation. I believe he's been injured pretty much every window that Pochettino's been able to call him. So he has not played under Pochettino. So that'll be interesting. I don't know if Balogun's going to play that much. It'll be interesting to see how he does in camp.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pochettino. So that's the other thing about Poch. He cares about what he sees. He
Yeah.
does not give a shit about. So like, there's all this conversation about does he watch games? Does he watch any of this stuff? Poch is a delegator. He's got a good staff of guys that he trusts, and his right hand man Jesus is, I promise you, grinding all this stuff and knows what stuff that Poch likes to see and is making recommendations to him based on it. If you think he is not Greg Berhalter, he is not grinding film all day long. That is not Poch. That's not how he goes about it. This is the guy. Again, we've talked about this. He's got the the bowl of lemons on his desk to reduce to absorb negative energy. He's a vibes guy. I'm sorry, he is a vibes guy. That is Poch. But also, it doesn't mean he's not an exacting coach. It doesn't mean he doesn't have a tactical style. It doesn't mean that he's not detail oriented. It just means that he's a little different from the grinding film sort of scout based, super technical sort of mindset about things. He is going to be a little bit more fluid in what he's looking for. He's going to teach concepts as opposed to ideologies.
Yeah.
And that, honestly, for an international team, probably is better.
Yeah.
But it also means when it comes to calling players, he's going to call some guys that you're like, what? I mentioned this in the Discord. I listened to the Scuff call-in show today, and it was funny because, I mean, look, I have a lot of respect for what Bells and the guys at Scuff do. I think it's really good. In a lot of circumstances, I really enjoy it. mostly when Greg Velasquez is on the podcast is when I really
Agree.
enjoy it. I love Greg. He's the GOAT. And he's much more of yours and my mindset, which is a little bit more balanced to everything that's going on, not getting too far down the road of the sort of salacious intrigue of everything. But with the call-in show, you've got a bunch of the Discord members calling in with like a lot of these ideas of what's going on, and there's just all these conspiracy theories and all this other random shit that's being thrown around. I'm like, guys, it's a September friendly window. Can we calm down? Like, and I think the point I was meaning to get to is that as much as I love Scuffed for doing what they do and creating the community around the national team, which I think is kind of cool, it also has created a community of people who only care about the national team. They don't care about the club. They don't have a club team that they follow. They're not really. They're only worried about what it means to the national team, and so they have this very myopic point of view on it. And they think, and it causes them to sort of get into these like all these like conspiracy theories about like, or like, is this some sort of Machiavellian maneuver to tell this guy this or do this guy that? I'm like, bro, it's not that deep. Like, I promise you, it's not that deep. It's more like I said this, I think, in the Soccer Wise Discord when it was all going down, because I would not step into the Scuff Discord and this. I browse there at most. I don't interact that often because these people are so like in the weeds about it. And don't get me wrong, like I'm not mad at them.
Right.
Everybody needs a hobby. I do an hour and a half to 2 hour podcast on Sporting Kansas City every week. Okay. Like I am not here to judge anyone on their obsessions. But what I said is like, this is probably the most boring take of all, but isn't it possible that the majority of the guys that got left behind are just kind of in weird situations with their club and Poch just wants them to work it out?
Yeah. Seems likely.
Yunus Musa is finalizing a move to Atalanta this week. Weston McKennie is in his usual position with Juve, where he's out of the plans for whatever reason, and he's
either out or he's vice captain. Like there's no in between. It's like
lost his parking spot. Like, who knows? By the end of September, he's going to be drawn in pen in the starting lineup.
Absolutely.
So, like, the situation right now is more related to his contract. He hasn't signed a new deal with them yet. So, like, and he could go on a free in January. So, like, I think it's more that until he signs a deal, but Wes is also one of those guys that could probably play himself into undroppable status even without signing a deal.
Yep.
So, like, people getting really fired up because Joe Scally didn't get included, but Nathan Harriel did. And don't get me wrong, Nathan Harriel being included is fucking ridiculous. Like, come on.
Joe Scally is not all that.
He's not that good.
No, he's not.
And as I said in the Discord, like all the arguments were, well, he's played more Bundesliga minutes than any player out of his age. I'm like, oh, cool. What? You know who also played thousands of minutes in the Bundesliga? Timmy Chandler. He was asked for the national team. Like, I just can we stop with this? Like, oh, I was in the Bundesliga, so I'm good. And I think that is the point that Poch is making with his comments about MLS being competitive. The guys coming from MLS are fighting their asses off to be on that team.
Yep, that makes a difference.
And say what you want about their quality. Poch wants 23 guys who are fighting their asses off to win games for that team. That's what he wants, and that's what he expects. And being an Argentinian, like he's played for the Argentinian national team. He played in 2002 World Cup. Like he knows, like, and he wants that. He wants that from every player. That's what he's looking for. And if he's got to, light some fires to do it, that's what he'll do. If it works or not is a separate conversation. I have no idea.
I have zero problem with anything that he does. I think it's at the end of the day, he's eminently more likable than what's his nuts? Oh my God, Drew
Klinsmann?
I can't. Whose son is on the roster?
This is the best part. So this is the best part of this whole camp. Jurgen Klinsmann's son and Greg Berhalter's son are both on this roster, so we might see Triple G and Jurgen in a suite together watching the game.
It's beautiful, it really is.
Somebody was saying that somebody was making a joke. I think Michael Bradley's son is like 13. It's like we need to get him called in
So
so
close.
we can get all the all of the coaching tree families in the booth at this or in the suite at the same time. But
My hot take for the U.S. men's team, and I might have said this before. I know I said it to you privately. Is that the United States does not have enough wingers to actually run a winger-based system. So they
I think
also
you've
should
said that on the pod. You've told me before.
they also
Yeah.
should play a wing back system. But that's how I feel about that.
Well, and I think Jedi could play wingback too. So like it's not
Easily.
like you have to take and
Easily.
Jedi and Des would be good wingbacks.
They would be
So,
great, both of them.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So do they have the center backs to do it though? This is the problem, right? This is where some more grumpiness came
Right.
along because Tristan
This is
Blackman is in this camp.
Yeah. The problem is that if you don't even have two good center backs, do you really want to put three shitty center backs on the field? Probably not. So yeah, that is a good point.
That is a legitimate concern.
Yep.
I think you would have to re-architect the roster a little bit. I think you'd have to
Absolutely.
have like a James Sands probably. You would bring him in because he's a 6 who can play in a middle center back. I don't know if
What about
Tessman can do it or
what
not,
about
but
what about Aiden Morris? Like
he's a big
he doesn't
dude.
he doesn't
Did he
even
ever
get
play in the middle for Nancy? I feel like he never really did. Did he?
what no, for Nance? Yeah,
Yeah.
he was
No, did he play as a
was,
center back for Nancy? I don't think he played
no,
as a center
no.
back for Nancy.
I meant in the midfield. I just meant
Yeah.
it's a name that we haven't heard in some time. After he moved to Middlesbrough, he hasn't been called up.
He played for Poch in like right after he moved to Middlesbrough. I think in October was when they had the friendlies against Panama and Mexico.
I
And he
do
got
think I remember
that was
that.
he and Gianluca Busio played
Yeah.
in the midfield in that game. They got absolutely smoked.
Yeah.
Like, and so I think
Must
like,
have been a
and this
pretty
is
bad taste.
this is the thing about Poch is like
Yeah.
he cares more about what you do for the national team than what you're doing in your club.
Yeah.
That's not to say that Jesus isn't watching, and Morris has been really good since then for
Yeah.
Middlesbrough, and 2 straight player of the weeks in the Champo
Yeah.
for Morris. So like he's been good. We'll have to see if that translates into him getting call ups. But I mean, again, that's the thing. You got to earn your call ups, and you got to take advantage of them when you get them. Like that's the thing with Poch. It's like if you come in here and you give me an ass performance, then you're just not coming back.
Right. Why would you? Why would you come back?
I mean, I think at some level you're dealing with young players, and you get to see them for 1 week. You would hope that you could recognize that 9 months later they might be a different player.
But here's the thing: if you take a chance on somebody and they don't show out, like why bring that person back? Why not just take a chance on another person? You know what I'm saying? I think
I
that's
understand.
probably-
I understand the
that's probably-
mindset.
That's probably the mindset, and I'm okay with it.
I mean, it's just such a small sample size to make the decision on. You know,
Totally
what I mean?
agree. But
But
that's
Poch is also Poch
he's
is also a
vibes.
vibes guy.
He's
And
vibes, not sample size. You don't care.
right, and that's why Diego Luna is probably going to be on the World Cup roster because
Hell yeah,
he
let's
came
go.
in. He came in and did big balls Luna and broke his nose and did all that stuff, and he's always going to be high on Poch's list. Same with Sebastian Berhalter. Like these are guys who. I don't know if Berhalter is going to be on the World Cup roster, but he has endeared himself to Pochettino in the way that he goes about what he does. And I think that hopefully some other players who are used to being called in see that and they take it into account as far as what the coach is looking for. And I think it'll be better for them in their club teams. It'll be better for them just in general.
Totally agree.
We'll see. And oh, by the way, Tristan Blackman has been like statistically one of the best center backs in MLS this year. Like, actually, in a lot of cases, the best center back in MLS this year. And if you're looking for a guy to replace Tim Ream, he's a guy who can distribute the ball like Tim Ream.
And I don't know if those Discord posters have noticed, but like our center backs are not really that good.
Chris Richards is good. Everyone else is kind of
not that good.
Not that good.
You need more than one center back. There's no system
Do
that
you?
just has one. I don't know.
Can we do a back one?
I think
No?
even Liverpool has a problem with that. So
Yeah, yes, it was noteworthy. They had to had to have a 16-year-old steal a game for
I'm just gonna
them.
say, I have refrained, but that was one of the fucking best games that I especially
It was
like
highly entertaining.
for that game to be like the second game of the season. Good lord, just the vibes, the oh man, it was like it wasn't. I thank you for clarifying. It wasn't like a great game of soccer. It wasn't well played or anything. It was an absolute barroom brawl, and it was
Yeah,
just glorious. I loved it.
extremely entertaining soccer, and
I
that's
would, I would, I would, I would give just about anything for my club or my country to have a player like Bruno Guimaraes. I that dude is just like I can't think more highly of a player
he
than
was
I
a
do of
guy I
him.
thought Spurs might go after.
Dude, I mean,
I mean, they
I
ended up getting Joao Paulinho. You and I talked about off pod about how
yeah,
much I like Joao Paulinho, but Guimaraes is like he's legit. Like
he's
he is the platonic ideal of the Cody Welton midfielder,
he
isn't
is
he?
he can do everything, and he's got bite, and he can pass, and he can get in the box, and he can assist, and he's
And
a
he can
leader,
kick you in
and
the
he
shins, and
will
he can
kick
do
the
it.
shit out of you, absolutely. And he played most of the game on a yellow card, and he was still just walking that line, and I just love that. Oh, I loved it. It was great,
Yeah, yeah. It was good. It was a
highly
good game
entertaining.
for sure.
Are we going to
Um.
talk about? Are we going to talk about the big Kansas City news?
Oh, I mean, if you want to, I don't know. Are you talking about the engagement yesterday, or are you talking about something
Yeah.
else?
No, I was just playing around. I was hinting at the engagement, but I was talking about the Heat issue, the Heat game.
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's become more and more of a thing, right? So we talked
It's
about this last
ridiculous.
week.
It's ridiculous.
We talked about it last week, just kind of like, hey, NWSL, get out of your way. And then there's been so much more reporting on this about like
Yeah.
what has happened here, and Jessica Berman like threatening fines because they were taking the readings every 15 minutes, and they took the reading when there was a cloud over, and it
How dare
reduced it.
they? How dare they try to take the health considerations of their players into account? What an absolute farce! Oh my
Well, and
God.
so the Athletic, there's a really good article in the Athletic that sort of talks about like all the procedures that were went through, and the sources sort of told them what went on. Again, with Jessica Berman supposedly like angrily screaming at Chris Long and threatening fines if they didn't start the game, combined with the Guardian had an article today talking about how NWSL has since very quietly changed their
Change
public
the
facing
rules.
rules
Yeah.
about it. Supposedly they changed them 2 years ago, but didn't change the public facing. I don't know. There's a whole lot of like unknowns about this, but quietly like updated the public rules for managing heat that sort of speak to this 15-minute philosophy, and then removing the home team physician's discretion for starting the
Yep.
game. And
And the,
NWSLPA was sort of unaware of this, it sounds like. And so, yeah, there's just a lot going on here. So this was a collectively bargained thing.
and
The
for
whole heat,
what? For
the
what?
whole,
For what?
yeah,
For
the
what?
TV,
Some
TV.
eyes.
It's
Some eyes on the
TV money.
TV. Like
TV money.
ridiculous.
Yeah, it
Yep.
was TV money. Like, and there's a lot in both articles talking about like how this was identified early in the season as like maybe don't schedule a game at 3 p.m. in the middle of August in Kansas City. Like there's so much that all and people highlighting it well beforehand, and just a lot of unwillingness to make any type of substantive change. A lot of this is falling at Jessica Berman's feet, and it should. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
saying it shouldn't fall at her feet. I will tell you this: Jessica Berman, as the commissioner of the league, works for the owners of the teams in that league.
Hmm.
Okay, she does not work for the league, as it were. She works at the pleasure of the owners of the clubs in that league. So the 14 ownership groups are who employ her. They have given her some very clear guidelines of what they want her to accomplish, and one of them is to continue to increase revenue. And I'm sure she has some very clear expectations regarding that revenue growth, and losing a couple $1 million in TV money because they didn't broadcast that day because CBS has some sort of out clause due to weather would probably hurt her in that circumstance.
I don't know.
And
Would
I
it hurt her
promise,
worse than losing one of the best players in the league? I don't
I
know.
mean, but that's the thing is, I promise you, the way executives think, they don't think
I
in that
know. I
way.
know.
And she's also I promise you, she does not go ape shit on Chris Long on his cell phone. Again, this is all reportedly. I don't know for sure that this happened, but reportedly via sources, go ape shit on Chris Long on his cell phone, telling him that he's going to get fined if she doesn't believe that the other 12 owners that aren't participating in this game don't want her to make sure this game goes off.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just telling you, like, that is probably at play here. There's so much, like, Don Garber gets this all the time, where everyone thinks that Don Garber is some sort of Machiavellian sort of instrumenter trying to, like, manipulate MLS into something. No, he is trying to make sure his next contract gets renewed by the ownership group. And how he does that is by doing things that keep getting them more enterprise value, more money. Like, that's what they're focused on. So he is continuing to do activities that help achieve that. Same thing with Roger Goodell, all those guys. They get paid millions of dollars to be the whipping boy for every fan of that league and continue to insulate owners from the fact that they're really the ones that are creating these rules and philosophies. So
Yep.
I'm not saying that Berman probably shouldn't have a little bit more, long-term mindset towards things and be able to manage. Like, part of being the commissioner of the league is also being able to manage your TV deals in such a way that you're not losing your mind over one game being postponed due to heat.
Yep. Is there no insurance rider for that either? I mean, come on.
You would think so.
I mean,
you would think so.
I don't
Like,
know.
there's a variety of things here that, yeah, you're right. It's been managed very poorly.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether or not she believes she was empowered by the other league ownership to do what she was doing or any of that other kind of stuff. The management of this whole situation was extremely poor for an executive that you would expect to be managing it in a much more professional manner.
Yep.
There's no doubt about any of those things, and it flies at her feet. But I do think all the people saying the league needs to fire her need to recognize that no, the owners of the league would fire her if that is the case. And maybe she will get fired, and maybe they'll make her the scapegoat for all this. But I promise you she's going to get a giant parachute out of it, too.
Right. That's part of her job, too, is to be the scapegoat if necessary. So,
Right.
yeah.
So, like, yeah, I agree that Jessica Berman did not do this very good, but she's also the scapegoat for what is really more an interest by the league to continue to increase profits.
Yep. Makes sense.
Anyway, the Current won again this weekend. Temwa did Temwa things, like, all the things that you're familiar with. They shut out another team again. They have given up, I swear to you, they have given up 10 goals the whole season.
That's
17
crazy.
games, 10 goals allowed.
Yeah.
It led Rob Gale, the Thorns coach, to go on a rant about how he doesn't enjoy their style of play. It's not the brand of soccer that he enjoys. I'm like, what, the one that kicks the shit out of you?
Where have I heard that before? That's a vintage Peter Vermes rant. Love it.
Caleb Porter did it this week too, talking about previous versions of the New England Revolution,
I'm sure.
and they got called on it and said, "No, I didn't say that. You're putting words in my mouth." And they had to play him the recording of him saying that. Anyway, yeah, it was so, like, I think Daniel Sperry said the amount of copium in this quote is significant.
That's why Sperry makes the big bucks, man.
Yeah,
That's good.
The thing is that they've been playing on the road a lot over the last month and a half, and they're about to come home for I think they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of their last 9 at home.
How great!
And they're already 11 points, 12 points clear.
Wow.
They are on pace for almost 66 points this season
Jesus.
in 26 games.
That's a lot.
Well, everyone talked about how, like, crazy it was last year when the Pride got 60, and I think the Current are going to blast right by that this season, because the Pride were not this good defensively.
Yeah.
they were this good offensively, but they were not good this defensively, and not this good defensively, and it is unbelievable. So, like, they still have like double the expected goal difference of the next best team in the league.
Yeah. That's crazy.
I don't know what to say. It's just they're an absolute machine. There's a reason that they're referred to as the Death Star current. Like, it just, I don't know what you do. I don't know what you do against this team, man. I enjoy watching them.
You go to Mexico and you pay as much money as you can for stars.
Well, they had to. Yeah, I mean, the Barber Banda stuff sucks, by the way.
Yeah,
like,
it
this
really
is
does.
terrible. I like, they released the injury thing, and I was like, some sort of tendon avulsion or something like that. I'm like, what? I don't. This is the most doctor related like phrasing on earth. And thank God someone in the Discord said it's like, well, yeah, she ripped the tendon off her pelvis, and I'm like, oh, that sounds really bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, oh my God. So yeah. Anyway, yeah. So they went and broke the transfer record to bring in a striker from Mexico to replace her, and we'll see if they're able to integrate her well enough. But I mean, it's the right move to make if you're sending Barbara Banda to the season-ending injury list, that you go aggressive. And it's not, the Pride still have championship aspirations, so they should do that. But yeah, not ideal for them. But the Current continue to roll and continue to look to be. I mean, I think, they're gonna, unless some really, I'm not even gonna say, but they're rolling. They're rolling right now. I'm not gonna tempt fate. I don't want to do that. But things are going very positively right now for the Current, for sure. And moving on, Leagues Cup semifinals are going on with no Liga MX teams in them again.
Darn.
They changed the whole format to try to get more, like, to guarantee that all the quarterfinals would be, MLS versus Liga MX, and they lost all four.
It's messy magic, Drew.
Messi did he play in that game? I don't think he played in that game.
I don't think so. No, he didn't play.
No, he came back for like one half of one game and has been injured since then. So
his magic is not confined to him. It's just, it infuses the whole league.
Does it? He is playing in this one, by the way. He is
really?
playing. Yeah,
Wow.
He's playing against Orlando. He started against Orlando. So
Okay.
Orlando, Miami is happening right now. It is still 0-0, just short of the end of the first half as we're recording this. But yeah, I mean, these are all teams I enjoy that are in MLS that are left. I mean, the Galaxy have obviously had a tough start, but they have good players, right? And we expected them not to be terrible all year. And I'm wondering when a certain Ricard Puig is gonna make the bench, because he's been practicing for a little bit. So
I can't wait. You know how much I love to watch him.
Ricky Puig,
Yeah,
I mean, he is a polarizing player. Let's put it that way.
I love it.
He is such a singular player, man. That's the only way I can describe it. He is a very, like, there's only one Ricky Puig.
Yep.
And he's the only one that gets away with play. I would say, I mean, young Messi would play like this. He would drop back and do some shit like Puig would do. Old Messi doesn't do that. He's like, I don't want to go back there. I don't want to run all the way back there.
No.
But young Messi would do it.
Absolutely, he would.
I'm not trying to compare Ricky Puig to Messi, but the style is not completely dissimilar. But
MLS needs more defense optional elite attackers. So
I mean, Miami has all of them. So
that's
they
true.
even have defenders that are defense optional.
Right. Nicely done.
But yeah, I mean, the Leagues Cup has been largely entertaining. The games that I've watched have been entertaining games, and because they have CONCACAF referees, they're even more entertaining. So, yeah, I mean, I am looking forward to when we get done recording this, turning on some Leagues Cup and enjoying it. Although that Galaxy Sounders match doesn't kick off until like 10 p.m., which
That's
is
a
a
no.
little late.
That's a
A
no for
little
me.
late. A little late for a school night. But
Ugh.
all right, let's. One thing to look for. I don't have much to say about this Colorado match. Sporting's coming back home after an unbelievably tough 6-game stretch in which they got 1 point. 2 games against Seattle, Vancouver, San Diego, Orlando. Like, this is a rough stretch. The 1 point against NYCFC is probably the one game you would have thought they might have gotten a result from. So it's like a sort of as expected result from those games. Colorado. They lose Georgie Mihailovic, bring in Paxton Aronson. I don't think Paxton is at Georgie's current level.
Mm-hmm.
I think that with some time he could reach that. He'll be a different player than Georgie. I think you and I both have thought that Paxton was probably the better of the Aronson brothers as far as
Always.
potential and
I will
quality.
always believe that.
Yeah. So I think that, for all the hand wringing about it, I think it was actually a really good move by Colorado. And it showed some intent by them as well to take the money from Georgie and immediately go turn it into something that I don't think anyone really expected. But I mean, they've been on a pretty good run of results. They did get smoked by the Galaxy last weekend. But I don't know. I mean, that was a team that that Sporting struggled with in Commerce, but did end up getting a victory in a very one-sided game on the stats side of things. But somehow they came away with a victory. And I think in Kansas City it'll be a different sort of thing than it was in Denver. But I'm just looking for some competence.
Yeah.
Maybe some Eric Tommy. Eric Tommy has been practicing.
That would be nice. Yep, that would be nice. I think that Colorado probably, I mean, not probably, they do have a lot more to play for than Sporting Kansas City. And even though they don't have maybe the top end talent that matches, Manu or maybe Joveljic, they still have a lot of very good players. And I think they have players that, they're more of a data-driven club, and so they have players who are brought in, to play specific roles alongside one of another. And so I don't take them lightly at all, and I think it'll be a pretty tough test for the team. And so I'm with you. I'm hoping and expecting for some competence and a competitive team, and I would be fine if we still rolled out the double pivot of Jake Davis and Zoran Basong, and I'd like to see something.
I don't know about a 4-4-2.
I would like to see something.
Experiment.
I totally agree. I don't know. Other than that,
4-2-3-1 would be fine. We're not going to get a 3-4-2-1, so let's just get a 4-2-3-1. Manu's not healthy. Let Santi sit underneath Joveljic as sort of a 10, sort of.
I would love that. Let's do that. That sounds great.
I mean, that's how Vancouver's using Tomas Muller. Like, why couldn't Santi Munoz do a similar thing? He likes to sit in those pockets anyway.
Yep.
And it eliminates Joveljic's need to drop back there to receive.
I totally agree.
And if you want to play Toy as a right winger, that's fine too. I thought Shoppy actually looked pretty bright as a sub.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to see because things kind of went so bad the last half hour of that game. But Shoppy, I thought Shoppy looked better as a sub. Yeah, I really did.
He looks better as a sub than as a starter, and so let's keep that in mind.
Keep using him as a sub. Like, I think having his energy at the end of games is actually better than it at the beginning, in my opinion.
Really, really Sporting. Like, I'm not expecting big things. But a result would be nice. We need to keep getting results so that we can finish above St. Louis. At this point, that's really, I think, that's really what I'm going for. That's the one big hope I have for the season is we can just string together enough results to finish higher than the team who recently decided to let go of their chief soccer officer. So
yes, yes. hopefully we're far enough along in that search that they are not like taking candidates away.
Uh-huh.
I don't think that's the case, but we'll have to see. I think beating St. Louis is obviously the main goal. They were big time mad about how the officiating went against them in against Vancouver, which I just found to be hilarious. It's just it is it is the most loser mentality shit of all time. This is why I don't like complaining about refs, because I think like when you're a bad team and you lose a game and you whine about the refs, that's just take the L, bro. Take the L.
They're shit. Why are they complaining about the refs? Not like talk to me when you have a Handball United, to bring into the conversation. You don't have anything, so just leave it.
Just seriously, like, I mean, is this your first, like, Fotis Bazakos? Yeah, Fotis Bazakos was the ref in this game, and I was like, the meme. It's like, first time?
Yep.
Like, yeah. Come on, y'all. Like, act like you've been here before. You obviously haven't. Like, that's the thing. It's like you supposedly invented soccer in the United States, but are unfamiliar with being jobbed by referees in a game, and not even really that badly jobbed. Like the VAR situation on the last penalty was a little dubious. I will agree with that, but
it was just your normal everyday pro jobbing. It wasn't anything.
It wasn't like technically incorrect. It was just like, kind of surprising. You kind of raise your eyebrow at it, like, pro, whatever. It's like, bro, you won 5 games all year. Like, calm the fuck down.
It's not like seriously. The ball crossed actually way over the line and it wasn't even called a goal. Like, I mean, come on.
That also went in Sporting's favor at one point.
I know. I'm just like every sporting fan can think of like half a dozen instances that are far more egregious and far more worth complaining about than that.
I mean, I was talking about the Seattle handball with somebody at a game like literally a couple weeks ago.
See?
I mean, it is just a thing that you can't forget those situations. It's just like Sebastian Blanco's goal in 2018. There's just like a number of those things that just never leave your mind. It's just part of the experience. And I think I said this on the Discord. When you've been a fan of a team for 30 years, you've been through some shit.
You see some shit.
You're seeing some shit. You just sort of like, it's one of those. When you've been a fan of a team for 3 years, you act like a toddler about it, because that's what you are.
Amen.
And on that note, I'm Drew. He's Cody. We will talk to y'all next week.
Screw St. Louis.